Good morning and welcome back to another virtual edition of Children's Church. Today, we're going to hear a story that's all about friendship and a little bit about betrayal, but mostly about friendship. It's a great one, so hope you're ready. We have three main characters today. The first is King Saul, who, you know all these characters, but King Saul, he's Israel's first king, remember? He has these good moments, but then he has these bad, really bad moments as well. He can get angry and jealous, and then he turns violent, and he's actually tried to kill David several times, and David is our next main character in our story. Now, David, he's the one who slayed Goliath, right? The giant. He's like, this great victor in Israel, and he also has been secretly chosen by God to be Israel's next king, which King Saul is kind of starting to catch on to, which is probably why he hates David so much. Well, he goes back and forth. It's really confusing. But so David's our other person in the story. Now, David, he has a friend, a best friend named Jonathan. Now, Jonathan, we've talked about before, and they're really good friends, but Jonathan, the weird thing about him is he's actually King Saul's firstborn son. So he is the person who should be Israel's next king, because the firstborn son would be the next person in line to rule over whatever country it is. But he is well aware that David has something special going on, that God has favored him in this way, and he's excited about David possibly becoming the next king. But so Jonathan, great friends with David, but he's also King Saul's son, and King Saul loves Jonathan, and they're actually really close, so things get really complicated, and you're going to see that today. This is one of those stories where when you're just reading it straight from the Bible, you can feel the love and the fear and the tension and the worry and all these different emotions that they flood right off the page. So why don't we go ahead and read it right now? We are in 1 Samuel chapter 20, about 2/3 of the way through, verse 1, all right? So it says in the first verse that David is fleeing from Naioth to Ramah. And why is he fleeing? Why is he running away? He's running away from King Saul, who was trying to kill him. Remember how David's wife, who's also Saul's daughter, she pretended like David was still in his bed and made a idol into a little thingamajigger. But then David, he had been lowered down through the window, and he was running away from King Saul, who was trying to kill him. So he runs to this new town, and there he meets Jonathan. And he starts saying to Jonathan, "What have I done? What is my crime? How have I wronged your father that he's trying to take my life? He's trying to kill me, Jonathan. What in the world is going on here? I haven't done anything wrong. What did I do? Why is he angry at me?" And Jonathan, he responds in a way that you'll see. Jonathan says to David, "Never! You are not going to die. Look, my father doesn't do anything, great or small. It doesn't matter what he never does anything without confiding or telling me first. Why would he hide this from me? It's not so. There's no way in the world, David. You're crazy. You're just dreaming this stuff up. My dad, he tells me everything. He would definitely let me know if he was planning to kill you. You're starting to lose it, clearly." David wasn't crazy, not at all, and he quickly explained to Jonathan that King Saul was very aware of the fact that Jonathan was really fond of David. I mean, they were best friends, so it makes sense that Saul wouldn't tell Jonathan his evil plans to end David's life. I mean, that wouldn't go over well, would it? Well, David, he promises to Jonathan that he's telling the truth. He says that there's only a step between me and death. David's I was so close to losing my life because of your father. Jonathan, your father tried to kill me. It really happened. I was just a step away from death, right? I was just a second away from being killed by that spear that Saul threw at me. And so Jonathan says to David in verse 4, "Whatever you want me to do, I'll do for you." He believes David, and he wants to help in any way that David can think of. And so David comes up with a plan, a plan to figure out once and for all, for Jonathan's sake and for his own sake, whether or not Saul does indeed want to kill him. And if he does want to kill him, how in the world he's going to get away safe and not get killed by Saul. Because that sounds like a good plan to have, David. In verse 5, David spells out his plan to Jonathan to figure out whether or not King Saul is going to try to kill him again. So he says, look, Jonathan, tomorrow is the New Moon Festival, a festival that they celebrate in Israel. And I am supposed to dine with the king. I'm supposed to have dinner with your dad in the palace, like with King Saul. And I don't really want to be there because, hello, he's going to try to kill me probably. But look, this is what we're going to do. I instead am going to go and hide in the field until the evening of the day after tomorrow. So for the next couple of days, I'm going to be hiding out in a field instead of going to the dinner table with your dad, just in case he tries to turn on me. And if your father misses me at all, if he's wondering where in the world David is, just tell him that I earnestly asked for your permission, for Jonathan's permission, to go back to my hometown of Bethlehem because an annual sacrifice is being made there for the whole family. Now, David's actually just going to be hiding in a field this entire time, but this is the story he came up with. And he says, look, if King Saul, if your father, if he says, very well, then your servant is safe. If your father doesn't care that I've left and haven't attended the dinner, then you know what? I am safe. It's okay for me to be around King Saul. It's not a big deal. He's not going to try to kill me again. But if he loses his temper, you can be sure that he is determined to harm me. As for you, show kindness to your servant, for you have brought him into a covenant with you before the Lord. If I am guilty, then kill me yourself. Why hand me over to your father? And David, he's like, all right, so if King Saul starts to lose his temper when he finds out that I have not come to his table to have dinner with him, then you better believe that your dad, King Saul, he's going to try to kill me, Jonathan, all right? He's going to try to kill me. And you know what? If that's what his plan is, don't just, give me over to him. Why don't you just kill me yourself if I did anything wrong? But clearly I haven't done anything wrong. I mean, we're like brothers, Jonathan. We're best of friends. And so you wouldn't kill me, would you? You wouldn't hurt me, would you? Today's video was brought to you by the letter C for clueless. Because Jonathan, he is completely clueless about how his father actually feels about David. Clueless. Jonathan can see the fear and the worry in David's eyes. And David just told Jonathan, look, if I'm guilty of anything, if I've done anything wrong, then why don't you just kill me yourself? And Jonathan, this is his response. Never, Jonathan said. If I had the least inkling that my father was determined to harm you, wouldn't I tell you? David, if I had any idea, if I had any clue that I thought that my father, King Saul, was going to try to harm you in any way, let alone kill you, I would tell you in a heartbeat. And as a matter of fact, Jonathan, he comes up with a plan so that David can know whether or not his father, King Saul, will try to harm him without David being put into a situation where he could actually get harmed. So David, he's gonna go out into that field and hide. Jonathan is gonna go to the dinner, and then after Jonathan leaves the dinner, when he finds out that information, when he figures out whether or not his father is gonna try to kill David, he's gonna come out to the field. And he's gonna be shooting some arrows through the sky with the bow, a little archery action going on. And through that, there's gonna be a little bit of a sign, a secret code to tell David whether or not he can come to the palace and he's safe, or he should go run and hide because King Saul is out to get him. So this was Jonathan's plan. He was like, all right, so David, you go hide in that field. See that big rock over there? Go hide behind that rock. And you chill out over there on the third day. And I'm gonna come out with my bow and my arrows, and I'm gonna shoot 3 arrows right next to the rock, like I was shooting at a target or something like that, because Jonathan's just that good at the bow and arrow that he's like, don't worry, I'll get the arrows right to where they need to be. And this is what I'm gonna do. After I shoot the 3 arrows, I'm going to tell a boy to go run and get the arrows for me. And while he's on his way, I'm either going to say the words, they're to the side of you, or they're just beyond you. If I say that the arrows are to the side of you, that means that you are safe. That as long as the Lord lives, David, you have nothing to worry about. You can come out from your hiding and you don't have to worry about my father at all. But if I say they are beyond you, then that means that you are not safe. It means that God is sending you off. David, it means that you need to run as fast as you can and to hide because my father will try to kill you. Man, this is tough. I can't imagine being David in that moment, especially those next few days as he's hiding and waiting, wondering what his fate is going to be. It must have been really tough to trust that God was still in control and that the promises that God had made to David about one day being king, that those promises would really come true. At this point, it feels like God is against David, not for him. We're gonna sing that song again that we've been learning. And it's a song that, remember, it uses that word covenant. And covenant is like a promise, but a really strong promise. It's saying that God, when he makes a promise, he does not go back on his word. He does what he says. God of Abraham, you're the God of covenant, of faithful promises. Time and time again, you have proven you do just what you say. And though the storm may come and the winds may blow, I remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting sun, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. 'Cause I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. 'Cause I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. No, he'll never let me down. And great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting sun, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me. Sing that one more time. Great is your faithfulness to me. And so David goes hiding in the field, and Jonathan goes to the palace, to the new moon feast with his father, King Saul. And while he's there for the first night, because this feast was going to last more than just one day, so on that first night, King Saul doesn't say a thing about David not being there, even though there's a space missing, like there's an empty seat where David is supposed to be sitting. But King Saul doesn't say a thing. Jonathan was probably very relieved, like, oh, good, this isn't bad. Well, here, King Saul just thought that David must be ritually unclean because of different like weird laws that they followed in the Jewish culture. And so like, that's probably why David's not here. But then on the second day, when David still wasn't here, King Saul brought it up. And he was like, yo, Jonathan, where's that son of Jesse, the guy from Bethlehem? You know, like, where's he at? He's supposed to be sitting right here for this feast. And so Jonathan is like, well, he had to go back to his hometown for a sacrifice. So he begged me if he could go, and I told him that it was fine to let him go. Hopefully it's not a problem, right? And King Saul, well, this was his reaction. This is Saul's response in verse 30. Saul's anger flared up at Jonathan, and he said to him, "You son of a perverse and rebellious woman, don't I know that you have sided with the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the shame of the mother who bore you? As long as the son of Jesse lives on this earth, neither you nor your kingdom will be established. Now send and bring him to me, for he must die." Yeah, Jonathan, I think your dad has an issue. Now you gotta understand how difficult the situation is for Jonathan, because King Saul, his father, has just given him a command to go and find David so that King Saul can kill him. And if Jonathan goes to where David is and he warns David and lets David escape, that means that Jonathan would be guilty of treason. He would be guilty of like going against the country because he's going against his father, King Saul, who has the power and the authority there. It'd be like if the president of the United States told you, you need to go out into war and fight against those people, and you were like, no, I'm gonna help them instead. He's not gonna be very happy with you, and you're gonna have some punishments coming your way. So Jonathan, he's put into a very tough situation here. He needs to decide whether he cares more about David or his own safety. Not to mention the fact that if David dies, then Jonathan's going to be Israel's next king. So that's kind of exciting for Jonathan. There's a lot going on here. Well, Jonathan, he goes out to the field once the festival is done, and he takes his bow and his arrows, and he shoots 3 of them to the same spot right next to the rock where he knows David is hiding. But the question is, will he tell David to come to him? Pretend like everything's fine and pretend like he's safe? Will he listen to his father and his evil wishes to kill David? Or will he risk his own well-being and his own future so that David could be safe? Well, he shoots the 3 arrows, and he sends a boy off to collect the arrows. And as the boy is reaching the arrows, he yells out, "They're just beyond you." And with that, David knew that he was not safe. And David goes running far away, as far as he can, so that he can try to escape the evil plot, the evil plan of King Saul to have him killed. And Saul, from this point on, he is just engulfed with rage and anger and jealousy. And they begin this epic game of hide and go seek where David's life is on the line every step of the way. It's very intense, very frightening, and it goes on for way too long. But David, he is trusting and believing that he will be safe. And thankfully, he had a friend who was selfless, who cared more about David than he cared about himself. That he was willing to put his own life on the line so that David might be safe. Whew. We can learn a tremendous lesson of what it means to love others by looking at the life of Jonathan. We can learn a lot about what it means to be a true, good, godly friend, where you would care more about your friend and supporting them, helping them, encouraging them, than getting anything for yourself. That's what it means to be a true friend, and we can definitely learn that from the life of Jonathan. Well, if nothing else, we can learn from this story what it means to be a good friend. So you notice how at the beginning there, Jonathan when he sees that David is hurting and scared, he listens to David. He finds out what is wrong. And then when he hears all these things, he's willing to believe David and actually figure out what the truth is so that Jonathan can help him out. And Jonathan, he was willing to help David even when it put his own life in jeopardy. It put his own well-being at risk. He could have lost a lot if he got found out for helping David in this moment. But Jonathan was willing to help David anyway, because that's just the kind of friend that Jonathan was. And that's the kind of friend that we should be too, to others. And, you know, it reminds me of a song that we're gonna sing. And this isn't exactly a worship song, and we've definitely never sung it here at church. I don't think, not inside this sanctuary. But it's this great song that's all about friendship, so we're gonna sing it anyways. Yeah, why not? All right, so if you know it, and you should know it, if you don't know it, then you're gonna learn today. Feel free to sing along, all right? It goes something like this. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. For it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. All right, we need to sing that again. But there's some other fun stuff that we can say in it. So I'm going to sing, lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll be carry on. And then I'm going to say 4. And you're going to say 5. And then I say, it won't be long. And you'll shout out, sure, till I'm gonna need. Kind of sounds like knee. So you sing, elbow, somebody to lean on. All right? Let's go for it. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. For 5, it won't be long. Sure, till I'm gonna elbow somebody to lean on. So just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. Yes, we all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. I'm gonna elbow somebody to lean on. It's 4, it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Hope that's a fun way to end this video. So be a good friend to others. Be a good, godly friend to others. Love them well, even when, you know, it might not be the easiest thing to do. And I'll see you guys next week.